More exclusive Naruto Lemon videos coming out on my Boosty. You can support me by subscribing. A new subscription level has been released that you can check out. Link in description. Chapter 9. I'll dream about something like this, or the rescue of innocent princesses. Naruto walked through a sunlit clearing. A fresh breeze was blowing, flowers, quietly chirping about sunny summer, winked at him with multicolored eyes, emerald grass caressed his bare feet. My soul was calm and peaceful, despite the fact that Naruto had a difficult task ahead of him. His guardian, the evil witch from the Black Thicket, Tsunade the prostitute, for some completely strange reason decided that Naruto was obliged to marry. Now, this very second, it is not subject to discussion. This is exactly how she responded to his indignant cries. And, judging sensibly, Naruto wasn't exactly against the very fact of marriage. Beautiful girls lived in the city, only Hinata, the daughter of a blind wealthy landowner, was worth it. But no! The granny decided, just think, Dadabi, that Naruto is obliged to marry the well-known princess. And everything would be fine, you say? Princess. Famous. No! This fame is very sad. This whore lost her entire family in childhood, went to take revenge on someone, and all this despite the fact that her entire kingdom was already burning over her. And the devil brought her to the castle, in which lived a terrible and terrible monster, merciless and cruel, who could only be bought off with gifts, and the required amount of these gifts brought melancholy. And on the castle, by the way, there was a sign hanging, hung by kind people who had been robbed. Don't interfere. The princess, obviously, had no gifts. So she's been sitting there for 3 years now, waiting for the idiot prince to rescue her. The granny witch did not react to Naruto's admonitions that he does not need an illiterate, even if she is a princess, and that he does not want to be that idiot. By the way, the old woman didn't give me any gifts either, saying that a real man should solve his problems himself. Naruto would be glad to spit on this princess, but he really wanted to replace the old witch in her post as a great and terrible monster of the thicket, much more terrible than a castle robber. Logically reasoning that since his Tsunade Bakun, due to some misunderstanding, is considered more terrible than a castle robber, then he has nothing to fear. Naruto, having received a kick for good luck, blithely set off on his way. It was not yet clear what to do with the freed princess, but Naruto had no doubt that he would come up with something. A sign. Do not enter. Very dangerous for your wallet and life. He passed in the late afternoon, when the setting sun gilded the emerald carpet of grass, and the flowers, finally insolent, went to bed, ceasing to shout vulgarities after him about him and the killer stalk. Don't you understand? Naruto read it closer tonight. He then circled around. Look out, don't go there, you idiot! And finally, well, we warned you. Stopping in front of the stairs that went steeply upward to the giant castle, and looking at the frightening size of the basin with boiling lava on the way, the terrible stone faces, the menacingly scattered human bones, Naruto sighed. He hated steps. He muttered a spell that his unfortunate guardian had taught him, and with swift leaps he reached the giant forged gate, reminiscent of the gate of a huge cage. They creaked terribly when Naruto pushed the door. Gloomy darkness reigned in the hall, the floor was partially covered with water, there was dripping somewhere in the distance, and right opposite, 100 meters up, 2 huge narrowed red eyes were burning with a fierce fire. For Naruto, who went through the school of Jiraiya the Witcher, a friend of his guardian, who loved to arrange mortally dangerous situations for him, such nonsense did not work. Hello, Dadabi. He waved his hand in greeting and smiled broadly. The eyes widened in amazement for a moment. What do you want here, pathetic man? Thundered a deafening voice. Naruto awkwardly scratched the back of his head. And to hell with her, with the princess. He sat down on the floor and, under an amazed look, began to tell. In the eyes, at first narrowed contemptuously, understanding gradually appeared, and then outright laughter. So, Dadabi, you understand, I don't have money, but I need a princess, damn her. Princess? The eyes asked in a normal, surprised tone, and then dropped to the same level as Naruto, transforming into a huge fox, resting his head on his folded paws. Yes, boy. Well, you butted in. Otherwise. Naruto sighed. Will you help? Why did it happen? The fox asked half contemptuously, moving his ears. And out of male solidarity. Naruto answered impudently. Dadabi, don't be, you simply have to help me. The fox narrowed his eyes almost in admiration. Exclusively because of your amazing impudence, cub. He growled, and with a loud bang he shrank to the size of a horse. The Bakons have one, toothy and poisonous. Similar. Thank you, Red. Naruto screamed in admiration and patted the taken aback fox on the shoulder in a familiar manner. Well, then let's go see your princess. If Naruto was alarmed by the fox's malicious laughter and slip of the tongue, he skillfully did not show it. They climbed to the very top of the tallest tower, and of course, Naruto thought as he crawled up the steps, the princess, whom the valiant prince must carry on one arm, while fighting the monster with the other, does not care at all about the length of the stairs. The monster, condescendingly moving its paws next to him, turned out, by the way, to be very pleasant and easy to talk to. Naruto, at least, was very amused by his stories about idiots. Whoever comes to us with a sword for treasures, I'm with a hole in the ass and behind the gate. While Naruto could laugh at all, because this idiotic staircase, damn it! Redhead! He croaked, exhaustedly burying his nose in the steps. I can't do it anymore, don't call me that. The fox growled. My name is Kurama. Before Naruto had time to react, one of the long, bushy tails grabbed him by the ankle and lifted him upside down. Well, you stupid human cub. So will you go? Baring his fangs in a crazy grin, the fox asked. If he thought Naruto would refuse, he had absolutely no idea how much Tsunade's pupil disliked stairs. Of course, Dadabi. Forward. Kurama grinned with satisfaction and, throwing it onto his back, rushed upward in sliding leaps. They reached the door in half a minute, and throwing Naruto in a heap on the floor, the fox wished him luck with a grin and disappeared, leaving a creepy smile floating in the air. No, well, the eyes are fine, Naruto thought, dispelling it with waves of his hands, but he had better not experiment with that grin. The door, by the way, was the most ordinary one, and fluffed up like a peacock during the mating season. The Bakon had one like this, poisonous and toothy. They ate it. Naruto did not at all expect that a polished katana would fly towards his neck. Having praised the madness of Jiraiya the Witcher, Naruto swallowed, looking at his own automatically raised hand and the blade grabbed by the knife, glistening carnivorously at his throat. Attached to the blade was a black-haired guy. Directly, so to speak. He burned Naruto with his incredibly black, anthracite eyes, and the fearless pupil of Tsunade felt something break inside. Black, absolutely black eyes. So beautiful. So familiar. Here Naruto thought of breaking away from looking at his potential competitor and rescuing princesses and looking around the room. As it turned out, the damned competitor turned out to be a savable princess. Who are you, Dadabi? Naruto asked indignantly, pushing away his katana. The guy put his sword away, continuing to glare at Naruto and stopping just indecently close, so close that Naruto could almost see their breath mixing. Team, you're taking a long time, Dobe. The guy answered incomprehensibly and leaned forward, pressing his thin, chapped lips to Naruto's lips. Naruto gasped in indignation and punched the bastard in the gut as hard as he could. And then, when the guy was regaining his breath, he grabbed him by the lapel of his shirt and kissed him himself, crushing the most expensive lips in the world of the most expensive person in the world. So, wait a minute. This is the first time he sees him. Or not? Why is my heart beating so much? What is this? Knock. Knock. Knock, 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 knock. Naruto took a deep breath, widening his eyes. The room was dark. The wind howled outside the window, furiously driving snow pellets. Nearby one could feel the calm beating of sleeping Sasuke's chakra. I had a dream, Naruto realized, pressing his hand to his chest. Her heart was beating convulsively. I dreamed about it. He turned his head and came across the narrowed eyes of a fox. Did you dream about what? Kurama muttered quietly, burying his nose in the tails, and, as if by chance, covering the chilled Naruto with one of them. "No, Ku!" Naruto whispered. "It's all nonsense." Kurama remained silent, looking at him intently and somehow sympathetically. My heart was still pounding in my chest. A blizzard howled outside the window. Sasuke was sleeping. Chapter 10. Naruto was cleaning kunai. Cleaning will never harm a weapon, so Uzumaki decided at the dawn of a frosty day. Well, I started cleaning, but what? Sasuke was not in the room. Naruto felt his chakra near the house, but he did not go out and ask what team forgot in such cold weather outside. It wasn't that he was afraid to meet the Uchiha's gaze, not at all. It was just that the weapon needed cleaning. Exactly. The wind howled outside the window, driving the snow. Even a dog won't go outside in this weather. If Naruto were in the skin of a local modified animal, he would certainly attack the caravan now. Purely from hunger, forgetting about caution. Well, that is, if he had been careful, he would have had to forget. The Uzumaki shivered, although the room, heated by the fiery breath and body heat, was warm. Kurama was sleeping, lying on the floor. He guarded the village. The fox Naruto, of course, did not believe in altruism at all, so he demanded an oath from him that he would monitor the surroundings. Kurama grumbled and growled, but agreed, demanding 4 days. Don't call, don't yell, don't chat, and generally pretend that I'm not there. Naruto doubted that he would succeed, but he promised to try. Naruto didn't really understand how it was possible to monitor something and sniffle into 2 holes, but he had no doubt about the amazing abilities of the red-haired bastard. Kurama knew how to surprise. The front door slammed and the silent steps of Shinobi rustled down the stairs. Kurama opened one eye. Naruto buried his face in his weapon, running the rag over the sparkling kunai. Sasuke entered the room, radiating annoyance. He stepped over the tails spread out on the floor. They had just been tucked under the body, Kurama vengeful, and opened the travel bag. Naruto buried himself deeper into the rag, which was dirtier than a kunai, but this, in fact, did not matter at all. Sasuke took a weapon and a couple of scrolls out of his bag, stuffed everything into his body bags, picked up his cloak, lying in a wet heap in the corner, straightened the katana tucked into his belt, and resolutely headed towards the exit. Kurama followed him with a not at all sleepy look, and then stared at Naruto. Uzumaki could not ignore the double pressure of hostility, and without raising his gaze, muttered gloomily into the back of the departing Sasuke, "Where are you going, Dadabi?" The Uchiha stopped without turning around. "Unlike you, I am still going to complete this mission. So I'm going to investigate. Do something useful, Uzumaki." And he left, slamming the door, leaving Naruto batting his eyelashes indignantly after him. How dare the subject even talk to him like that? What came over him? Uzumaki was loudly indignant into the void, hitting his knee with his fist in the heat of the moment. Yes, with the same hand with a kunai. The result is logical. Howling and jumping on one leg, Naruto pressed the wound with one hand and tried not to listen to the malicious giggle of the red-haired infection. "How come you haven't killed yourself yet, cub?" The fox growled cheerfully, raising his head. Naruto made a face in response, already feeling the chakra. Kurama is bothered by a trivial but painful cut. Why the hell is he? Maybe this is connected with what happened. Kyubi asked busily, stretching and taking up even more space. What happened? It happened. The fox drawled happily, squinting his eyes like a big happy cat. Don't ask, Naruto thought, don't. And asked, what happened? When? Kurama was surprised and, just like a dog, scratched behind his ear with his hind leg. Like when? Naruto was confused. Well, when did what happened? Something happened. Kurama exclaimed in amazement, and burst out laughing, unable to stand it. Stop laughing, you idiot! Naruto muttered, not even feeling irritated. He bent down to pick up the weapons scattered on the floor and asked peacefully, without raising his eyes. So what happened? Is this in addition to the fact that you act like a girl all night, or should this fact also be taken into account? Naruto froze, comprehending, blushed deeply, his red ears shining on the walls, and quietly muttered, "What?" "Well, think about it for now," Kurama drawled, getting up. "And I went. And disappeared. Didn't even say where." Naruto straightened up, put the weapon in his bag, and threw it into the corner of the room. He walked aimlessly from wall to wall, shivered, it was rapidly getting colder, and sank to the floor, clutching the hair at his temples with his convulsively trembling fingers. If he uttered a word, at least somehow showed what exactly he was dreaming. Naruto whined quietly, scratching the skin at his temples, and without even noticing it. Damn him. Damn these damn dreams. If Sasuke heard. Sasuke. The wind brought cold from the northern mountains, turning the village into an icy desert. By evening, the snow that had melted in yesterday's sun had frozen into an ice crust, sufficient for a small animal, like a rat, to stand, but it insidiously breaks under people's feet. Sasuke glanced around the plain stretching ahead. The wind drove the drifting snow, impairing visibility, but it was clear that there was not a single living creature in the vicinity. The reason for such an unusual phenomenon, even for these places, was sitting next to the Uchiha, tapping her tails on the snow and shamelessly using her chakra to stand on a crust of ice that was too thin for such a carcass. The snow melted, unable to resist the fire chakra, and turned into steaming water at the bottom of the basins. A chain of large round holes clearly indicated the path taken by Sasuke. The Uchiha was sure that the nine-tailed creature did this on purpose. To spite him personally. Kyuubi yawned, shaking the air, and pushing off from the water at the bottom, jumped over Sasuke with a long jump. He stepped on the spot, slightly swept away the snow with one of his tails, and completely ignoring the contemptuous look, sat down with his tails tucked up. Hissing strings of steam immediately began to flow from underneath it. Kurama slowly began to sink, inexorably resembling a sinking barge. Sasuke gritted his teeth. Considering that the fox did not have such problems when moving, Sasuke was simply sure that "It's all because of the volume of chakra, you bastard, you won't understand. Just a fox excuse." "This is so exciting," Kyuubi suddenly sneered. "Tell me, bastard, do you always go on reconnaissance like this? There are so many new and interesting things, I just don't know what to look at." "It would be better if he stayed, maybe the cub would reveal something like that." Again. Sasuke ignored him, jerked his shoulder, and rushed away, raising a cloud of snow pellets into the air. The sharp tension caused his eyes to darken for a second, but the Uchiha chuckled contentedly. The creature, who for some unknown reason followed him, was left far behind, and now only the fourth could catch up with Sasuke. Well, or Naruto, yes. And even that is not a fact. Far from a fact. It was not for nothing that Sasuke spent so much effort, time spent in countless trainings. It was impossible to catch up with him if the Uchiha himself did not want it. "I was just thinking," Kurama lazily grumbled, who somehow ended up on Sasuke's right hand. "Why are you so diligently fulfilling this mission of yours? You constantly leave." The Uchiha pushed harder, and midges flashed before his eyes from overexertion. She was still running alongside her, leaping over the snow dunes with lazy leaps. "Just think, if your human brains are capable of this," the fox continued, as if not noticing that Sasuke was moving faster and faster. "Because mine are capable, and I see something strange in your relationship with Naruto." The lungs were burning with fire, there was a catastrophic lack of air. The fox playfully jumped over the top of an old tree covered with snow. Sasuke stopped, frantically trying not to show his shortness of breath, and stared at the demon with hatred. He grinned, showing half-meter fangs. Swept away the snow with his tail. Sat down. And with a hiss, in clouds of white steam, it began to sink. Again. Sasuke ground his teeth, risking rubbing off the enamel, until the fox's eyes dropped to the level of his eyes. "Why did you follow me?" Sasuke said as calmly as possible. Kurama tilted his head to the side. He moved his ear and narrowed his eyes, burning with fire. He smiled even wider. "Oh yeah, bastard." Reminded. And he attacked. The Uchiha immediately inhaled the air, which had become heavy from the thickening danger. Instinct screamed in a bad voice. Sasuke almost managed to grab the sword from its sheath, a movement practiced to the point of automatism, taking a split second. The Nine Tails was faster. Having thrown out the body without any special ceremony, Kurama trotted along the ice crust towards the village at a light trot. The mood was rapidly creeping up, the snow felt pleasantly cold on the paws, and even being bitten by the tail could not spoil anything. When he reached the house of God's Dandelion, the sun, invisible behind a veil of gloomy clouds, had almost disappeared beyond the horizon. Foul-smelling a pet, people went crazy. She lied from the snow tunnel leading steeply down to the booth. Kurama didn't even stop. The beast stuck the tip of its nose out, realized who it had run into, and with a squeal, showering the roof of the tunnel, rushed back. The fox jumped onto the roof. It, by the way, was only a meter above the ground, and listened. Naruto was still sitting in the room, and the Nine Tails clicked its mouth in annoyance. He was ready to endure a lot from this eccentric scoundrel as long as he remained a scoundrel. A tearful nurse, confused in her own feelings, as if Kurama had not figured everything out for these two idiots, the fox was completely unnecessary. The Nine Tails sighed, shook itself, and with a pop, raising clouds of snow, returned to its normal size. That's better. He stood for a moment, waving his tails with a whistle, waiting for the heart-rending screams and barking of the dogs. It roared, blowing away snow with a sound wave and smashing a couple of buildings into splinters. And he grinned, stretching his lips in a monstrous grin, right into the dumbfounded blue eyes. "Kurama, what are you doing?" muttered a disheveled Naruto quietly, clenching his fists in disbelief. The Nine Tails moved his ear, driving away the strange sensation. A demon, he's a damn demon, and he attacked with a roar. Chapter 11. Kurama, what is this? I had a terrible headache. And it was very, devilishly cold. The cold woke me up, my instincts pulled me out of heavy oblivion. It's cold, you can't sleep, it's been true since the time of the academy. Naruto opened his eyes with difficulty. The body hurt, it seemed that all the bones were broken. Sharp ice cobblestones dug into my back, causing a lot of indescribable sensations. Overhead, or would it be more correct to say, before our eyes, there was a dark piece of gloomy sky, bounded by steep rocky walls. A thick layer of matte ice, riddled with deep cracks, had frozen over them. Naruto breathed in the frosty air and coughed, his lungs burned with icy fire, his ribs ached. Strong hands grabbed her shoulders and turned her over onto her stomach, helping her breathe. Breathe, Uzumaki, breathe. His breathing evened out, and Naruto cautiously glanced sideways at Sasuke sitting next to him. "Where are we?" he muttered hoarsely, swallowing blood. Sasuke raised an ironic eyebrow and, making sure that Naruto was not falling over on his side, pulled away. "We Uzumaki are in complete ass." The country of snow was, in general, poor in attractions, natural resources, and so on, so forth, for which it would be worth keeping at least a decent garrison of shinobi. The ruler didn't bother much, having little idea of what exactly was in the territories entrusted to him. The alien shinobi, the land of snow, is poor in warriors, but rich in troubles carrying out various missions, were aware of the changing weather phenomena and were not at all aware of the constantly changing landscape. However, if the shinobi had lived for another 1,000 years, and had not sought to die suddenly at the age of barely 30 years, they would have known about one funny crevice and natural well with an interesting anomaly. Old Man Rikudo talked about her, but Old Man Rikudo generally told them a lot of things. Half of it was lost under the weight of the years he had lived, the other was confirmed by rivers of blood or refuted by the meanness of life. Who would have thought that when Kakashi began to list the list of currently available missions, which he brought from headquarters, this blushing idiot, like a former teacher of Naruto, Kurama, would hit Kurama with a long-forgotten story. The details fit into the plan so gracefully that Kyubi even said thank you to the immensely surprised Hataka. Rikudo called the chasm Demon Cleft? Devil's Well. Kurama didn't really remember. Only a vague location remained: the desert of ice death, as the territory of the current country of snow was previously called, and the property due to the intersection of some lines there, the well absorbed chakra at an alarming speed, turning an ordinary gap into a deadly trap for shinobi. Kurama spent almost 3 days searching for the well, and another day testing its properties. It's hard to estimate how quickly chakra disappears if you have, in principle, an unlimited amount of it. At this point, the "pretend I'm not there" limit has been exhausted. And the cub immediately began to scream. The old man didn't lie. After meeting Naruto, Kurama doubted that Rikudo had ever lied to them. Even in his justifying speeches about people, throwing 2 shabby little people into the well was already a matter of technique. The thigh ached slightly after the efforts of the overly strong cub, and the Ninetales even became proud. It wasn't that he doubted the Hokage's abilities, but to know is one thing, and to receive direct confirmation is quite another. The Uchiha was also not a weakling, no matter how disgusted it was to admit it, so Kurama was almost not worried about the 2 idiots. That is, he wasn't worried, of course. Why should he worry about people? The well, of course, is deadly, but the strongest shinobi of Leaf are not made with a finger. They won't make it out, but they won't die either. Maybe. Well, Kurama hoped so. What does this mean, team? The blue eyes were filled with bewilderment, irritation, and something that made you want to shudder, stand at attention, and report the current state of affairs. Even a seasoned Uchiha in every sense. Of course, Sasuke didn't do anything like that. He walked away to the opposite wall, although is it possible to talk about walls at the bottom of a round well, and sank to the floor, leaning against the rocky wall, and, as inconspicuously as possible, wrapping his arms around himself. It was damn cold, and although the icy soil underfoot looked as if someone had scraped off a layer of ice and snow with powerful blows, it didn't make it any warmer. Naruto sat for a moment, mindlessly looking at the darkening strip of sky above his head, and stood up in one smooth and clear movement. He looked around, habitually avoiding Sasuke's gaze, and from this, for the umpteenth time, a wave of anger spread through his body from his solar plexus. Sasuke gritted his teeth and clenched his hand, digging his short nails into his palm. No matter why Uzumaki ignored him, it was not his fault that the Uchiha reacted so violently to this. Not guilty. But the desire to crush this absent, unseen gaze with a sharp blow has not gone away. Uzumaki. He simply had no right to look at him like that. I didn't. On anyone, on strangers, on presumptuous shinobi, on anyone, but not on Sasuke. Not at him. Damn it, they were connected by too much. They had gone through too much together, too. What is too much, Uchiha? You abandoned him. Sakura told him at the very beginning, when he was sitting under escort and waiting for the Hokage's decision. You abandoned him, Uchiha, and don't hope that during the time that you were gone, Naruto did not live. Sasuke didn't even hope. Naruto has his own life, friends, enemies, buddies, and foes. And who is Sasuke to him, who has fallen out of the flow of life for years? Sasuke didn't have any hope. He just wasn't going to share Naruto with anyone else. Never. Where are we? Uzumaki asked, ruffling his blonde hair and glancing at the walls. Sasuke followed the movement of the thin hand. Are there really only bones there? God, and answered, slightly shrugging his shoulders. I don't know. He curled his lips and reluctantly admitted. But I couldn't get out. The Uzumaki took a quick glance at him and suddenly rushed forward, pushed off from the ice on the wall and, not even reaching the middle, slipped and fell down, landing awkwardly on his knee. What the hell is this, Dadabi? He muttered and looked at his hands, clenching and unclenching his fists. I told you, Dobe. There is no chakra. What? An astonished cry and a look, finally straight eye to eye. It sucks chakra. And it looks strange. Of course, I'm not Hyuga, but what I see is enough to draw conclusions. We won't even be able to concentrate on climbing, and without chakra we won't be able to climb up the ice. No weapons, no ropes, your creature did its best. We will die from the cold. Kurama doesn't. Naruto began angrily, his eyes flashing at Sasuke. But the Uchiha was not going to listen to justifying speeches. The Nine-Tails betrayed you. Do not you understand? He specifically dragged us on this mission to throw us here. I found a way to get rid of you without killing you directly. Naturally, otherwise the village will hunt him. Well done, Uzumaki. You found someone to trust. Kurama couldn't. Yeah, you're all dreaming. What kind of kindergarten dope? Kurama did not betray me. Uzumaki suddenly calmed down, said firmly, and turned away, ending the conversation. Sasuke clenched his teeth, suppressing a surge of irritation. The bastard twisted Naruto as he wanted, used him, and blind faith in the nine-tailed demon was simply ridiculous. In addition, lately the Nine-Tails and Naruto had not been acting as usual, and Sasuke was partly sure that the creature was to blame for the Uzumaki's strange behavior. The Uchiha hated the nine-tailed demon fox terribly, to the point of gnashing his teeth. After all, besides Sakura, who had been missing with Saiyan missions lately, Naruto had only one connection, which Sasuke was unable to break. Kurama was neither kind nor courteous nor easy to talk to. In fact, he was a vile, arrogant, self-confident brute, sharp-tongued and monstrously powerful demon. He did not like people. On the contrary, in his complex value system, humanity was somewhere between flatworms and coelenterates. He did not use enormous power for good. No, he loved to destroy and destroy, sincerely enjoyed the taste of blood and fear. He was not bound by any connections, was not aware of the existence of duty and honor, and Naruto was not lying to himself. Kurama would have killed an animal, a stranger shinobi, and even someone like Kakashi-sensei with equal ease. The fox had some reverence for his brothers. He did not rush at them right away, and was even ready to tolerate a couple of innocent phrases addressed to him, in front of the Rikudo-san, and the only creature about which Kurama did not speak in his usual manner, and did not confuse him, and in front of Naruto. This was strange, incomprehensible, but Naruto, honestly, never even thought about why Kurama treated him so unusually. For the Nine-Tails, of course. Naruto didn't think about it. The fox, with all his quarrelsomeness, intransigence, and simply terrible character, was his friend, and he was not going to change anything. And I didn't want to listen to anyone's opinion on this matter either. Cruel? Yes, but which of them is not cruel? Bad character? Yes, you and Anko and Ibiki didn't communicate. Hates people? Uchiha Sasuke, please love and favor. Monster? Have you met Orochimaru? Murderer? No more than any shinobi. It's not that Kurama was more cruel or monstrous. He just had completely different values, different from human ones. And he defended them. How could he? And even though Sasuke considered him a complete idiot, Naruto was sure that the fox could not betray him. He would not have resorted to such an elegant method of killing. The moment Kurama decided to kill Naruto, Naruto would have been dead. And this commanded respect. Unlike everyone else around him, only Kurama never lied to him. Which means Fox had a reason. And that means he will explain everything. But Databe, hurry up, it's damn cold here. Chapter 12. Crazy ideas, or let's tell the truth, kids. Kurama threw another corpse away from him, shook himself, fiery splashes flew from his skin, and sat down, waving his tails irritably. I wonder if the idiots have already started to sort things out, or do we still have to wait? People are so long. Kurama wasn't exactly worried, not at all, but he still strongly doubted that fragile human bodies were adapted to such low temperatures. The hope that the idiots would find warmth in each other's arms without the help of the fox did not hold water, and was rejected out of hand by Kurama. Everything yourself, you have to do everything yourself. Kurama shook himself again, lighting up the area. Naruto would call it posing and would laugh for a long time, but Naruto wouldn't know, right? And, growling into the darkness, trotted towards the well. But now, when the cub gets out, the accusation of lying will not be inserted into the general stream of indignant screams, accusations, and Kurama did not exclude this either. A couple, or even a dozen, Raisingans. Did the Nine-Tails promise to protect the village? The Nine-Tails did. None of the residents will suffer from the teeth of any animals in the next hour and a half. The fox was not going to blame those who died from a broken heart on his snoring conscience. He is a demon, not a nun, and is not responsible for weak nerves. Kyubi had almost climbed the mountain range surrounding the well, when from afar, having brought down a couple of deadly avalanches, a cry was heard. "Kurama! Bring your redhead here, fast!" "A mistro, a mistro, a mistro," responded the sluggish mountain echo. The cub, no matter how strong he was, could not sense him through such a thickness of ice and snow, so Kurama, without much haste, moved towards the well. With a small stature it, of course, lasts longer, but it is also more reliable. Something interesting was happening in the well, so Kurama crawled on his belly for the last 100 meters, shamefully drowning in the snow so as not to be noticed, and listened. In vain, of course. "Kura!" The cub howled with all the power of his strong lungs, and Kyubi duly appreciated how his personal favorite sound wave affected his opponents. There was a noticeable crackling in his ears, and when the ringing finally disappeared, the Ninetails realized that he had missed part of the conversation. "Yuzuratanki, this is calling him names again. We should remember to rip his throat out and remind him that only Kurama has the right to insult his carrier. Team! I'm telling you, he will hear. And this is a cub. Something about his voice is strange." Kurama winced, remembering whether people could die from hypothermia. It turned out that they could. Hurry up, right? He heard a long time ago, Dobe. But he won't come, don't you still understand? No, Kurama won't be in a hurry. And what does not come mean? That is, of course, the Uchiha does not have to have a good opinion of the Kyubi, quite the opposite. But could he really think that the nine-tailed demon fox would stoop to such a primitive method of murder? "He'll come, Dadabi. And when he comes, I'll hit him right to the tails with a raisin gan." "No, you still have to wait. Kurama! Team Dadabi, maybe you can still help me, huh? Don't be foolish and save your strength." "Why do I need them?" "Sasuke, your mother, if we don't get out of here, will freeze to death. Stop sitting on your ass, get up and do something." But now it's time. Kurama stood up, lay down near the well so that his silhouette was visible against the dark starry sky, and growled, "Really, Uchiha, get up. Otherwise you will freeze some very important detail, a detail, I wanted to say, and the cub will abandon you." The young Avenger sitting near the wall raised his head and glared at Kurama with his black eyes. Therefore, there was not enough chakra for the Sharingan. "Kurama!" Naruto exclaimed enthusiastically and angrily, and Kurama, finally showing the Uchiha his fangs, turned his head towards him. Naruto looked. Well, terrible, yes. Kurama even caught some changes in the tone of the sleeping conscience's snoring. The cub had bruises under his eyes, he moved awkwardly. Speed is not a determining factor in relation to Naruto. He always looks like a propeller. The blood on his hair had frozen into icicles. Kurama thought that perhaps, maybe just a little, he should have been a little more careful. And then Uzumaki opened his mouth, and the feeling evaporated, curdled and cracked like blood under the hot sun. Kurama courageously ignored the rather less than laudatory ode in his honor. He shook his tails and thought that it was time for Naruto to stop communicating with anyone who taught him such words. He opened his mouth, closed it again, unable to insert a single word into the monologue of the ruined cub. He waited a little, looking at the stunned Sasuke, and finally barked, "Be quiet. Not everyone will tolerate it if you compare it with the pile of fresh food left by the Ten-Tails after he ate the swamp slurry. It is, of course, doubtful that the Ten-Tails ate swamp slurry, but still. Be silent?" Naruto drawled, his eyes flashing badly. You fur coat with a tail, will now show you to be silent. Come on down and get us out of here." Kurama thought about actually going down and riding out the insolent carrier, but he didn't. Firstly, it was necessary to adhere to the plan, and secondly, Lyolia could well have been prescribed to him. It wasn't that Kurama didn't believe in his own strength, he just didn't doubt the abilities of an angry Naruto. First, kids, you have to do something." "What?" Naruto was surprised, glancing sideways at the silent Uchiha. "Find out, finally, your relationship. And then you got me, Uzumaki, Uchiha this, Uchiha that, you don't let me sleep peacefully, you don't let me eat the bastard either, and lately you've become a complete slobber. Kurama looked from the dumbfounded, blushing Naruto to the imperturbable Sasuke. You piss me off, but I'm ready to tolerate you next to Naruto, provided that he shuts up and fights periodically. Yes, even with you, I don't care, I didn't sign up to sort out this waste paper of yours together with Uzumaki, and I don't intend to die of boredom either. Kurama rose to his feet, shook himself, moved his head, concentrating his chakra, and spat out a small glowing ball directly into the well. This is for you so that you don't die from the cold. The figurine was made by this woman of yours, Uzumaki, and Hataki had a hand in it, so the ball was a surprise. Tell the truth, you feel warm. If you lie, it's your own fault. I advise you not to shut up. The woman stank of sake, and she was unhappy at the prospect of working for you, Naruto. And now that you have realized everything, Kurama grinned predatorily, I propose a topic for conversation. For example, Cub, do you want to tell the bastard about your first dream about him? And before people came to their senses, Kurama soared into the air with a sharp push, returned to normal size with a pop, and rushed towards the village with smooth jumps. Do you dream about me, Asura Tankachi? Sasuke asked indifferently, examining the flaming ball. Naruto, his red ears shining on the walls, moved away from the Uchiha and muttered no. The ball blinked sarcastically, changed color to blue, and released a wave of piercing cold. Sasuke stepped back and looked at Naruto darkly. Nightmares don't count, sir. He desperately shook his head, looking menacingly at the damn invention. Sharik did not heed the warning and sharply lowered the temperature. Naruto felt as if he was instantly frozen to the bone. The already pale Uchiha turned even paler, and the black gaps in his eyes on his white face looked reproachful. Well, okay, team. Uzumaki muttered with chapped lips and wrapped his arms around himself, trying to find a foothold. I actually dreamed about you. The air flow suddenly became warmer, and Naruto lied with relief, a couple of times. The air became colder. Okay. Dadabi, more than a few times. It's warmer. Sasuke looked piercingly at the Uzumaki, who was averting his eyes, and neutrally remarked, the principle of operation is clear. Yeah. The silence that followed pressed me to the ground with a multi-ton load. Sasuke looked straight at him, and predatory shadows slid in his anthracite eyes. The upcoming conversation was scary. Naruto, fearlessly rude to the Bija's faces, never once doubting for the war, firmly knowing where exactly his path leads, Uzumaki Naruto, 6th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village, Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Demon Fox, son of Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato, and by all accounts the new sage of the Six Paths, understood for the first time what true fear was. Chapter 13. Prove that you are not an idiot, or about dreams. The piece of sky overhead was rapidly brightening, and the warmth was disappearing just as quickly. Sasuke and Naruto sat opposite each other, separated by the dim light of a makeshift heater. Needless to say, the devilish invention of the most vindictive woman of all countries, inspired by the reigning silence, emitted waves of increasingly piercing cold. The hands had long since stopped bending, the fingers had turned white, and even the seasoned body of the shinobi sounded the alarm bell, protesting against such disdainful treatment. And if Naruto, in general, who hates cold in any of its manifestations, was ready to say anything, he would unstick his lips frozen from breathing. Then Sasuke only turned paler than usual, but sat in a disdainfully relaxed pose, placing his pale hand on his bent knee. Naruto wrapped his arms around himself and sadly thought that if Sasuke hadn't been such an impenetrable asshole, everything would have been simpler. The thought was worth voicing, and the frozen brain, spitting on the filter in the form of the mind, sent impulses directly to the larynx. You've always been an asshole, Sasuke team, he muttered almost under his breath. The ball warmed up accordingly. But Sasuke still heard. And what did you mean by this, Uzuratanki? Yes, that's what I wanted. If you, from the very first day, had not declared with a straight face that you were an avenger, everything could have turned out differently. The words flowed in a stream, and the desperately frozen Naruto no longer cared at all about the Uchiha's reaction or the consequences of his words. Uzumaki was tired and was ready to admit that, having won the war, he still lost his main battle with the proud descendant of the cursed clan. Well, let be. If he was given a chance to finally say everything as it is, he will say it. And even if Sasuke then collects his belongings and leaves the village, Naruto will still catch up with him and beat him half to death, so that he will never dare to leave him again. How else? Simple, Sasuke. Like people. Missions, home missions, no chases, no war. Maybe there wouldn't have been that war, huh, Sasuke? Did you think about that? We would have managed it together, Dadabi, if not for your revenge. To listen to you, you're just a light in the darkness. The Uchiha answered gloomily. I have never betrayed anyone. Here you go. Voiced. Naruto cringed internally and looked cautiously at the Uchiha. Sasuke was silent, but in his eyes, illuminated by the soft light of the warm ball, there was neither rejection nor anger. And Naruto gave himself a slap in the face, and then a couple of kicks. Why the hell, you might ask, did he bring up this topic? What happened is past, and Uzumaki, unlike the same Uchiha, never clung to the bad past. He was just trying to make the future a little better. But once you've started, finish it, as Erosenin said more than once, climbing onto an even thinner branch of a spreading tree that grew next to the female part of the hot springs. To hell with the past, Sasuke. But is it really necessary to be like this now? I'm not asking you how you managed to live your whole life like an impenetrable idiot. Sasuke responded indifferently, but it was not for nothing that Naruto had been watching the topic for so long and noticed slightly relaxed muscles. Although maybe it was his imagination, or it was due to the warmer air floating from the cheerfully flickering ball. You yourself, Dadabi. And by the way, I am the smartest and most beautiful ninja in Konoha. Maybe after Rock Lee. Naruto couldn't resist and snorted, finally breaking the awkwardness that had arisen. Come on, Sasuke. I'm an idiot myself. Asshole. Shy kitten. Team. Dobe. What did you dream about, Uzuratanki? Naruto choked on air and looked away, involuntarily ruffling his hair, damp from the heat, with an involuntary gesture. He smiled, a false smile through and through, and Sasuke madly, incredibly wanted to wipe that smile off his face so that he wouldn't dare smile at him like that. He didn't dare smile as if Sasuke was just another ward of his, or another friend, or another person who meant nothing to him. His eyes darkened from trying to restrain himself, and Sasuke missed both the haunted gaze and the uncertainly clenched fingers. Can you imagine? This is such nonsense. He laughed falsely. There was some kind of castle, and Kurama, a vile bastard, was guarding it, and you were locked on the highest tower, and Sasuke team, I have never seen such a girl's room. This is nonsense. I supposedly saved you from the fox, but he helped me and everything else. Why did you wake up then? Naruto choked on his words. He asked desperately, You weren't sleeping, team? And he looked away. Sasuke didn't sleep. It was difficult for him to fall asleep next to the Ninetales. The feeling of demonic chakra was too oppressive, and he did not sleep for many nights, listening to the muttering of a snuffling Naruto and feeling his own convulsively contracting heart when Uzumaki said his name. He also dreamed about Naruto. On those dark, hopelessly dark days, when daily training stopped due to endless movements, or when Kabuto made another remark about Konoha, awakening far repressed memories, Sasuke did not sleep for a long time in the deafening darkness of his little room, lay motionless on the hard mat, trying don't remember. But when he finally fell asleep, a ray of light penetrated into his dreams filled with darkness and hatred. The memory always had blonde hair and amazing blue eyes. Like Sasuke's lovers, he didn't have sex with girls, didn't want to leave offspring even by accident. All of them, the boys from Kabuto's laboratories, the shinobi of the Sound Village, were all fair-haired and blue-eyed. They all died, some were killed by Kabuto, others by an angry Orochimaru. But never Sasuke. He didn't want to create connections. I didn't want to remember. And the memories died along with the next lover. Sasuke never kissed them, never spoke to them, never said his name, never allowed them to move in bed. They were all, yes, just a release of the tension accumulated in the body. And Sasuke always sighed with relief after another death. Naruto, once again bursting into his life, ruined everything. Or restored everything. Of course, he dreamed of Uzumaki. Although sometimes Sasuke hated himself for it. It's unclear why, but it seemed incredibly disgusting to equate Naruto and anyone else. Uzumaki, with all his annoyingness, loudness, ramen, friends, nine tails, flightiness, and absolute inability to listen and concentrate, was the only person Sasuke was willing to tolerate being around. At least for the rest of my life. Sasuke didn't answer, thinking about something, and Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. The air from the ball became a little colder, but it was a worthy price to pay for the peace of mind of the Uzumaki. He rubbed his warming palms and stood up, patting his thighs. He walked a little, stretching his legs and looking at the tired walls. The ice on them had melted from the previous conversation, and the flowing water formed bizarre patterns. Sasuke was still sitting in his favorite position, thoughtfully rubbing his lips with thin, pale fingers. On Naruto's index finger he noticed a small scar from a kunai or shuriken, a small thin scar, whiter than skin. She fascinated him so much, this light stripe, that he did not immediately feel that Sasuke was looking at him. And when he finally pulled away, his gaze glanced at the thin lips, the chiseled profile, the pale, flawless skin, and this man is one of the strongest shinobi of all the villages. And came across black, deep eyes. There was something wild and primal in those eyes, something Naruto had never seen before. Something that involuntarily sent a shiver through my body. And Sasuke saw it. Chapter 14. Why experience is needed, or then it will become easier. What? Naruto muttered, ruffling his hair and automatically taking a step back. Sasuke looked away. He stood up with a viscous and smooth movement Naruto had only seen such unattainable, inhuman grace in Kurama, and raised his head, peering into the sky. Clenching his hands into fists, Naruto caught sight of drops of blood from the wounds from his nails, and exhaled with a barely audible whistle through clenched teeth. Stillness and indifference with all its appearance. Except Naruto, no matter what Sasuke thought, was Hokage. And he didn't become one because of his beautiful eyes. And for hearing, vision, and intuition as well. Naruto also hated being ignored, so he had no intention of putting up with it, even from Sasuke. Dadabi! Uzumaki shouted loudly and jumped up to the Uchiha. Don't you dare ignore me, Sasuke team! As you say, Hokage-sama. Sasuke grinned evilly and bowed his head half contemptuously. This is just the height of impudence, Naruto thought. And he hit. Sasuke deviated from the fist on bare reflexes, shook himself angrily and hit back. Punch, 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 turn, dodge, push off the slippery ice wall, swing, block, hit again, hit again. Damn, it hurts. Sasuke has always been incredibly fast. Spit out blood from a broken lip, crouched down, avoiding a kick, and all this silently, in absolute silence, without techniques, without chakra, bare taijitsu, and most importantly, watch your breathing, watch your breathing. They jumped away from each other, and the fight ended as suddenly as it had begun. And then Sasuke straightened up, took a couple of steps towards him with his eyes narrowed menacingly. Naruto said angrily, trying to even out his breathing. And pushed Uzumaki against the wall, pressing his lips to his lips. Evil, harsh, and awkward, as if Sasuke had already forgotten what it was like to kiss someone. Naruto exhaled sharply and grabbed Sasuke's shoulders with his hands. As if in a dream, an inhibited thought flashed through. Sasuke smelled of weapons and blood and danger, and, for some reason, lemons. Such a simple smell for such a complex person, Naruto thought, carefully unclenching his convulsively clenched palms. He closed his eyes slightly and almost relaxed when Sasuke slid his tongue over his broken lip, and then bit it, and the pain sobered him up, snapping him out of his incomprehensible lethargy. Naruto sharply pursed his lips and put his hands on the shoulders of the crazy Uchiha, pushing him away from him. What's gotten into you, team? Sasuke took a step back, looked angry and cruel, as if they were still fighting, and Naruto could almost see the red flashes of the Sharingan in his eyes. The Uchiha grabbed his wrists, and grabbing them with one palm, slammed them into the ice above the Uzumaki's head, and kissed him again, biting his lips and stopping all attempts at resistance. With his free hand he grabbed the hair at the back of his head and pulled painfully, throwing his head back even more. Naruto would have been able to escape, was he Hokage or not, Dadabi? But there was something painfully familiar in the Uchiha's eyes, something that made him clench his thrown back hands into fists, look incessantly at Sasuke and kiss, answer him, just as harshly and without tenderness. What the hell are tendernesses? They are shinobi. And what the Uchiha is doing now bites, tightly clenched hands on the wrists, nails scratching the back of the head, and fingers tearing hair. All this is not in search of love or friendship, or attention, loyalty, understanding, what other words are used by ordinary people. No, all this is a desperate attempt to get rid of the deafening, ingrained loneliness under the skin. This is not love now, this is not even passion. It's just warm. Just not alone in this world. There's just someone nearby. Just not OD but honest. A sharp jerk forward, and he and Sasuke fall onto the merciless stones, steaming through the skin, and there is no longer a lonely child at the pier. A vest is quickly torn off and a bandana digs into his neck, and a boy, unloved by his parents, disappears. A furious bite, blood from a bitten lip and scratched hands pressed to the stones, and the ridicule and whispers behind my back disappear. Torn clothes, a bandage on the leg ripped open by a kunai, red, immediately licked blood from a deep cut, and there is no more unhappy swing at the academy. Deep scratches from sharpened nails, pain from careless penetration, no brother standing over the corpses of his parents. The bite, the blood gushing into the mouth, the mad teacher disappeared. A scream, goodbye, Snake Sennin, a groan, goodbye, unbelieving fools, a painful trembling, let you all roll, and intertwined fingers. Sasuke woke up to the heat surging in the air. There was water dripping somewhere, and he remembered that Kabuto had dragged their base into a cave next to a waterfall, and Sasuke had trained until he was exhausted. Was that why his body hurt so much? And then he came across this boy, what's his name, from Kabuto's laboratories, too quiet, too dark hair, too light eyes. He never particularly liked him, but handing him over to Orochimaru's assistant was almost a pity. A strange feeling suddenly squeezed his heart, and Sasuke choked on air, still without opening his eyes. The sensation seemed familiar and unfamiliar, as if from a distant past, and Sasuke winced, forcing himself to lie flat and inhale the hot air. Someone moved nearby, and Sasuke's hand instinctively darted to the head of the bed, for his katana. And I didn't find her there. And Sasuke never fell asleep next to anyone. Memories came flooding back, and the relief that followed made me want to howl or exhale in relief. Of course, he did not allow himself anything like that. He opened his eyes, looked at the darkening sky, already strewn with the bright lights of stars, and extremely slowly, carefully, for the first time in his life, praying to all known and unknown gods, he turned his head, and came across piercing blue, bright eyes. Naruto's iris, closer to the pupil, subtly changed its color, and at the edges it became almost black. Beautiful. And why didn't Sasuke notice this before? He glanced over Naruto's face, his stunned brain snatched from the overall picture broken and bitten lips, a relaxed forehead and a dimple on his right cheek from a slight smile. You were puffing so hard while you were waking up, Sasuke, that I thought you'd decided to throw away your skates. Uzumaki muttered in a voice broken from screams and grinned boldly and defiantly. Dream, Uzuritanki! Sasuke snapped mechanically, unable to take his eyes off the laughing sky and someone else's eyes. Yeah, Uzumaki responded flippantly and sat down, grimacing. I could have been more careful. Everything hurts. This is out of habit, Dobe. Then it will be easier. And he himself was afraid of his own phrase. Now Naruto will jump up, start screaming and resisting, and then pretend that nothing happened and leave. And Sasuke will die. because having experienced moments without loneliness, he will no longer be able to live with this familiar unfamiliar feeling. Naruto looked at him over his shoulder, snorted cheerfully and a little in amazement. Dream on, team! And he ruffled the hair on the back of his head, smiling his favorite smile. Naruto saved Sasuke's favorite smile, this sincere one, for his dearest friends. Sasuke smiled back at him. Team, are you healthy? The restless sixth immediately asked. What is this creepy grin, and why are you threatening your Hokage? Because my Hokage is an idiot. Sasuke wanted to answer, but only said as sarcastically and disrespectfully as possible, Please forgive me, Hokage-sama. Naruto pouted as expected and began to babble. But Sasuke ignored him, sitting down carefully. Their scratched back was mercilessly sore, their clothes were lying in a shapeless, dirty and bloody heap right under them, and the only kunai left by the demon and deftly put into action was now resentfully biting right into their leg. It was hot from the hard-working ball, which shone incredibly maliciously with an orange-red light, reminiscent of a fire, if a fire can be so vengeful and evil. The fire can't, but the old bag, that is, the respected fifth Hokage, could very well. Sometimes, Sasuke truly respected this woman. Naruto stood up awkwardly, continuously moaning and accusing the Uchiha of all mortal sins. However, which ones exactly, Sasuke could only guess, because the Uzumaki muttered mostly under his breath. He bent down, grimacing in pain, tugged at the vest on which Sasuke was sitting, and, of course, did not forget to glare at the Uchiha with a reproachful gaze. Sasuke chuckled, got up and got dressed much faster than the groaning Naruto. The clothes, of course, left much to be desired, but, on the other hand, everything could have been worse. Naruto thoughtfully walked around the ball, looked at the abundantly melting ice on the walls and indignantly remarked. Sasuke team, we need to get out of here. In the end, this reptile won't help us, so let's help ourselves, huh? What are we worth? How do you plan to get out? Naruto answered something, some next crazy and suicidal plan, which in his execution would probably turn into a perfectly thought-out operation, but Sasuke was no longer listening to him. Naruto waved his arms, gesticulating wildly as always, and the light from the ball softly illuminated his features. The Uchiha desperately wanted to remember, and convince herself that what had happened was not a dream, to remember what those lips, and the dried blood on them tasted like. And Sasuke didn't like to deny himself. He stepped forward, rapidly closing the distance, caught a confused look and an amazed exhale right on his lips. He kissed her gently and carefully, collecting the remaining blood, not wanting to cause pain, just not now. Naruto smiled into the kiss, lowered his eyelids framed by fluffy eyelashes and snorted quietly as they both ran out of air in their lungs. You didn't listen to me, team. If only he had listened to you. A growling voice boomed from above. I see you have fun here, kids. Chapter 15. On my own, or I'll kill the freak. Kurama sincerely considered himself an advanced being, even modern, for his age. Therefore, when he slowly trotted to the well a day later, he equally expected to see 2 frozen corpses, and then he wouldn't even have mercy on the idiots. 2 corpses, also frozen, but with obvious signs of violent death, and here Kurama, with some anxiety, felt remorse for that only kunai left behind. However, if the bastard and the cub decided to kill each other, they would have done it without a kunai. Here Kurama stopped and realized with bewilderment that if he didn't feel sorry for the bastard at all, then he would even be sad about Naruto's death. A little. Well, okay. Kurama assumed that he would fly into a rage and a destructive fire tornado would sweep through all the shinobi countries that had at least once allowed themselves a disdainful glance towards the Uzumaki. There were a majority of these, but Kurama did not take into account the extent to which the cub's personal qualities, in particular his straightforwardness and disrespect, were involved in this. He didn't understand at all why people demanded some kind of respect from the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed demon fox. To whom? To the little people? Ha! However, the first 2 options for the development of events were taken into account by Kyuubi only out of love to calculate all possible outcomes. And so he was sure that Naruto would step over himself, he and the Uchiha would talk, and this would be the height of Kurama's patience, maybe even kiss. Was not the best candidate for the role of, what do people call it? And would even endure the urge to vomit. In principle, he was going to do just that when Naruto came to his senses and stopped putting the Uchiha at the center of his world, but until then Kurama intended to tolerate him. It wasn't like Kyuubi cared about his Jinchuriki's happiness. To hell with it, he cared about his Jinchuriki's happiness. And for the sake of Naruto smiling, yelling, making noise, devouring tons of ramen, and remaining the same, incredible person, Kurama was ready to do anything for him and tolerate anyone. Only about 60 or 80 years is a deafeningly, staggeringly short human life, but Kyuubi will try not only to extend this life as long as he can, but also to make it as happy as possible. The least he could do to repay Naruto for what he had done and sacrificed for him. For their sake, all the bijou, and for the sake of this crazy world. But the fox did not agree to become a cute animal for any price, so the cub will have to endure. Kurama shook himself and ran towards the well again, quickly moving his paws. He even began to find advantages in small size, of course. Towering over stunned enemies like a giant punishing fiery madness was incomparably more enjoyable, but moving around unnoticed was also convenient. Well, okay, Kyuubi will increase the limit of his patience, let them kiss. It will be funny to look at the red idiots. The fox always liked this human reaction to embarrassment, huddled in different corners, and shining their red ears on the walls. The red Uchiha and the shy Uzumaki, of course, seemed faint to him, but what Kurama knew about human relationships was limited to the experiences and memories of his carriers, and Kyuubi learned about them in those short moments when he woke up from heavy oblivion in the subconscious of the Jinchuriki. This knowledge was colored by the all-consuming hatred in which the fox burned, or rather, the fire of which he was, in those distant times. Then Kurama definitely had no time for the subtleties of human relationships, so he was poorly versed in this moment. But it's enough to understand that enthusiastically kissing shinobi, completely ignoring the world around them scratched, in rumpled clothes, with obvious stains of hickeys and bites, and the piercing smell of blood, sweat, musk on their bodies, this is clearly not what only that those who are aware of their own feelings are best friends. What a piercing disgrace, Kurama thought, waving his tails furiously. And he considered himself quite modern. It's time for him to go to the monastery. They are completely crazy, vile people, and how can this bastard even dare to touch the cub? The fox wanted to jump into the well and kill the scoundrel, but then he remembered that Naruto would not forgive him for this old man Rikudo for Kyuubi's edification. Does he seriously intend to tolerate the Uchiha next to the Uzumaki? Kurama bared his teeth, holding back the urge to burn everything to the ground, and then heard the quiet whisper of his cub. His cub, he may not have been since childhood, but he still had a huge contribution to who Uzumaki is now, and he does not intend to. Yeah, well, he doesn't intend to. All that remains is to disguise the tails as wings and fly around the world, spreading joy and candy. Kurama just heard with his own eyes a piercing half-squeal, half-laughter one-tailed. I see you're having fun here, kids, he growled, narrowing his burning eyes. Naruto jumped away from Sasuke, blushed desperately to the tips of his ears and looked indignantly at the fox. The bastard turned his head slightly, and ignored the Kyuubi's appearance with such disdain that Kurama even respected him. A little. How they respect an ant that carries a load much greater than its body weight. Kurama was about to let out some sarcastic phrase when the cub, glancing sideways at the Uchiha, took a deep breath, clenched his hands into fists, unconsciously reached out to Sasuke, as if in search of protection. Fuck it, damn it, and brazenly shouted out, clearly not intending to suffer and suffer much repentance. Come down, redhead, and get us out of here. Kurama narrowed his eyes to slits, hiding the raging flames under his eyelids, stretched his lips in a predatory grin and drawled, terribly, with growling notes, as he had not done for a very long time, I'm coming, Naru. Sasuke's hand unconsciously reached to his belt, looking for a katana, and Naruto furrowed his eyebrows, looked from under his brows and snapped in a firm, confident tone, Don't snap your jaws at me, you scruffy fox. We will talk to you and back on about this topic, Databe. Sometimes Kurama sincerely admired the cub's fearlessness, but sometimes he just as sincerely wanted to wring the asshole's neck and bury him in the ground a kilometer down. However, Kurama had other ways, and if earlier, before this stupid phrase, the cub had a chance to escape the fox's sophisticated fantasy, now this chance has evaporated and there was no point in thinking about its condensation. Kurama softly sank to the bottom of the well, towering a good 3 heads above the people, grabbed the cub by the waist with one of his tails, not paying attention to his indignant baying, threw it onto his back, growling from the unpleasant sensation, and stared gloomily at the Uchiha. The 9 tails had no intention of putting him on his back. No, and no. Kurama, Databe, bend down. Come on, Sasuke. The cub, insensitive to other people's impulses, climbed in and extended his hand to the Uchiha. He will kill him, he will definitely kill him. Kurama bared his teeth in disgust, falling on his front paws, and flew into the air as soon as he felt a new weight on his back. He dug his claws into the ice on the wall, knocking out snow crumbs, pressed his belly and pushed off again, getting out of the well. Well, finally, Databe! Naruto shouted and slammed his hand on the red fur. Kurama bent down and, before the people jumped off, he shook himself sharply, throwing them into the snow. Into soft, plump snow, lying in a 5-meter layer on icy soil. People, still deprived of chakra, with a loud scream of obscene content from the Uzumaki and with silent contempt especially from the Uchiha, plunged headlong into a snowdrift, amusingly floundering there. Kurama was enjoying himself. "What are you doing?" screamed the whole remaining in the thin crust of ice, into which Uzumaki disappeared. The whole from the Uchiha puffed funny and made other sounds filled with contempt. Kyubi snorted, stretched his body surrounded by fire chakra and roared in anticipation. "You will go on your own." And he trotted straight across the ice, leaving behind him the indignantly screaming cub, whose head finally appeared on the surface. They wandered through the snowy plain, the sun, which had risen to its zenith, reflected from the white ice blanket with millions of sparkling lights that blinded their eyes, and Kurama squinted happily, feeling completely and absolutely revenged. Naruto and Sasuke crawled chest-deep in the snow somewhere far behind. There was a deafening silence, not interrupted by the indignant cries of the cub who had shut up a couple of hours ago, and Kyubi periodically swept the clearing with his tails, fell into the snow, laid his head on his crossed front paws and with a vengeance, it was a sweet pleasure to watch people. Their chakra had not yet recovered. It was only enough to keep the body from completely drowning in the snow, so people walked silently and intently. Lately. At first, Naruto yelled, screamed, cursed, threatened, begged, whined, even annoying the Uchiha, but Kyubi refused to carry them on himself. And help them too. And trample the path. And call for help. And in general, Kurama was insulted. The fox fell into the snow again. He looked over his shoulder, peering at the barely walking half-figures. While no one was looking, he buried his nose in the snow, up to his ears, and tumbled a couple of times. Upon contact with the fire chakra, the snow melted, instantly evaporating. Whitish clouds of steam came off the surface and almost immediately turned into a snow suspension sparkling with diamond lights. Enough, perhaps, Kurama decided, looked at the sun without squinting, and ran towards the people. Naruto glared at him with a reproachful look. "And how did this happen, cub?" Kyubi growled, positioning himself next to them. "What?" Uzumaki panted with concentration, pushing through the loose snow. Sasuke followed him. "What I had the misfortune to see in the well." Naruto blushed and remained silent. The Uchiha looked up at the Ninetales with a threatening look. Kurama grinned in response, looking over his shoulder at the bastard, and continued as if nothing had happened. "Does this have anything to do with what you've been dreaming about for the last couple of weeks? Did you talk about this? Did he tell you?" "Shut up. So what did you dream about, Uzuratanki?" Sasuke unexpectedly supported the Ninetales. Naruto worked his hands more actively, pushing through the snow, and grumbled, his red ears shining, "Nothing, topic. Redhead, you'd better help instead of chatting." "How about nothing?" The fox was falsely amazed. What about? Oh, Sasuke, faster, Sasuke, yes, Sasuke, and all the other Sasukes. He didn't tell you? The Uchiha, to the delight of the fox, shook his head, looking intently at Naruto's back and curling his lips into a smirk. Kurama! Uzumaki yelled, throwing snow at the fox. Close the. Kyuubi clicked his mouth and they walked in silence for a while. And still. Maybe you can tell me why the cub suddenly rushed into your arms? The Uchiha chuckled and answered kindly, It's none of your business, creature. That's it, Dadabi. If you don't want to help, then get out of here. P.F. I'll try to guess. Is this related to your first kiss? Shut up, hissed the blushing Naruto, not risking turning around at the Uchiha. No? Then with the second one? About. I know. Is it because the cub never got a girlfriend? Although, you know, Uchiha, the candidates were sticky, but no match for you. Kurama, shut up. Sasuke looked at Naruto's back with a slight grin, but did not comment on what was happening. What, not either? Then. Well, of course, Kyuubi smiled carnivorously. Is this related to that heartfelt speech you made to the woman and Hatake when you were about to chop off his chicken neck? No. Naruto denied. Yeah? No, Dadabi. What kind of speech? Uchiha intervened. Don't listen to him, team. Naruto exploded and accurately threw an ice cube at Kurama. Get out, you tailed disgrace. Kurama jumped away from the people, the ice evaporated in the air before reaching the hot fur, and growled sarcastically, ignoring Naruto. In it, bastard, Naruto spoke very loudly and confidently about that. Shut up. That you can't be killed, because you are. The most important part of my life, Dadabi. What else was there? Ah. Best friend, almost brother. No, bastard, I don't remember anymore. Ask him. Kurama. Oh, and he was also going to throw away his skates after you, Uchiha. I was unhappy. Sasuke glanced sideways at Naruto. The Uzumaki flushed to the roots of his hair, clenched his fists, not looking at the Uchiha. The fur on the back of his neck stood on end when Kurama heard a thin ringing of chakra, gradually developing into a hurricane roar. Probably shouldn't have angered the Uzumaki so much. Definitely shouldn't have angered the Uzumaki so much, the Nine-Tails realized, bouncing away from the Rasengan, a sparkling shuriken flying right at his head. He caught one of the clones on his tail, threw away a dozen others, and roaring, returned to his normal height in a puff of smoke. Sasuke remained standing on the gutted snow field, looking after the retreating Naruto, who angrily threw shining deadly spheres at the fox. His chakra levels were still too low to even stand in the snow, much less fight or create shadow clones. However, Uzumaki knew how and could surprise, time after time expanding the boundaries of reality with amazing ease. What Kurama said? They would discuss this with Naruto, but not under such circumstances, and not in front of the Nine-Tails. But now the Uchiha was sure that Naruto would never, and would never, escape from him. Sasuke won't allow it. There was a rustling nearby, and Sasuke sharply turned to face the Kyuubi, who was sprawled behind him. He glanced to the north, where the sounds of a furious battle were still heard, and turned his demanding gaze to the fox. Kurama sighed, yawned, showing off amazingly sharp teeth, stretched his whole body, alternately waving his tails, and drawled, heavily and fearfully. I won't tell you now how I will kill you if even a hair falls from his head. Kyuubi licked the blood from his paw. I won't even threaten you, saying that I will pull your vile eyes onto your vile face if you make him smile falsely again. I came to tell you that I'm not particularly thrilled to have you in his life. It's mutual. Don't interrupt me, man. But since you are in it, and I'm not going to disappear either, then we will have to coexist, at least until he throws you out. Aren't you afraid that you'll have to endure it for a long time? The Uchiha asked brazenly, fearlessly raising his head. Deserved respect. No matter how much Kurama hated him, he had to admit that the Uchiha Sasuke is an incredibly strong shinobi, and only with someone like him, only with Uzumaki's equal, could he live. Well, good. After all, this was what Kurama wanted. The concept of long is different for us, man, don't forget about it, QB grumbled. And he extended his paw clenched into a fist to Sasuke. He explained to an astonished look, "You need chakra to stop this idiot before I kill him?" And he grinned, narrowing his eyes and answering the Uchiha's grin. Of course, they will not communicate. But they can tolerate each other. Probably, the fox thought, and disappeared in a puff of white smoke.